In a classroom, Jogo sits at his desk as the teacher looks at him and asks if he is on class duty. When he nods, she gives him a task. She tells him to grade a stack of papers on the table and leave them on her desk when he is done. At first, Jogo feels surprised, but he has no choice and starts grading. The work seems never-ending, and no matter how much he tries, the pile doesn't get smaller. All he wants is to go home, rest, and watch a movie because he is already tired. He even thinks about throwing the papers away, but he knows he can't. As he grows more tired, Jogo slumps over his desk, looking defeated. Just then, a classmate walks in. It's Miyato, and Jogo looks up in surprise. She notices the papers and how tired he looks. Understanding the situation, she offers to help. Miyato takes half of the papers and sits down to work with him. Together, they start grading, and the task becomes much easier. Miyato, the cutest girl in their class, is someone Jogo secretly has a crush on. As they work, he finds it almost impossible to focus. His eyes keep drifting toward her, drawn by her smile and the way she concentrates on the papers. Eventually, Miyato notices his gaze and pauses, looking at him with a curious expression. She asks him where he's looking. Startled, Jogo quickly shifts his eyes back to the papers, his cheeks heating up. He tries to act normal, but inside, he knows he can't stop thinking about how beautiful she is. After some time, they finally finish grading the papers. Jogo feels relieved and thanks Miyato sincerely, letting her know he couldn't have done it without her. Miyato smiles at his gratitude, but before Jogo can relax, his stomach suddenly gurgles, loud enough for both of them to hear. Embarrassment washes over him as he realizes Miyato must have heard it. Instead of teasing him, Miyato reaches into her pocket, pulls out a sweet, and hands it to him. Jogo is caught off guard, surprised that she's so thoughtful. He hesitates for a moment but then accepts it, his heart racing at the kind gesture. He feels a mix of embarrassment and happiness, knowing he'll treasure this small moment. Jogo stands up, gathering the graded papers to take them to the staff room. Just as he's about to leave the classroom, Miyato calls out to him. She asks if he's heading home after delivering the papers. When he nods, she smiles and asks if he'd like to walk home together. Jogo freezes for a second, completely caught off guard. He never expected Miyato to make such an offer. His heart skips a beat as he nods, trying to hide how excited he feels. Somehow, Jogo and Miyato end up walking home together. Jogo can't figure out if he's just overexcited or nervous, but his heart pounds harder than ever before. He hopes desperately that Miyato doesn't hear it. As they walk, a group of people who know Miyato pass by. They glance at the pair and make comments, assuming Jogo must be her boyfriend. Hearing this, Jogo grows uneasy. He glances at Miyato, trying to read her reaction, and finally asks her why she even suggested they walk home together. The thought of people misunderstanding their relationship makes him feel anxious, and he worries that Miyato might find it awkward too. But Miyato surprises him. She casually tells him she doesn't care what others think. Her confidence and lack of concern strike a chord with Jogo. He realizes that this is one of the things he admires most about her, not just her beauty but her unbothered, honest personality. It makes him like her even more. As they continue walking, Jogo thanks her again for helping him with the papers. Miyato, however, waves it off, saying it wasn't a big deal. Not wanting to dwell on the topic, she quickly changes the subject to something lighter, and they chat until they reach the point where their paths split. Before parting ways, Miyato thanks Jogo for walking with her, and he feels a mix of pride and disbelief. They bid each other goodbye, and Jogo watches her leave. As Miyato begins crossing the road, she doesn't notice a bus speeding toward her, too focused on waving goodbye to Jogo. Jogo, seeing the danger, doesn't hesitate. He sprints onto the road to pull her back, his heart pounding with fear. In that split second, it feels as though everything might end for them both. In the chaos, one thought flashes through Jogo's mind. He wishes he had told her how much he liked her before it was too late. But fate has other plans. Instead of the tragic ending Jogo fears, he wakes up on the ground, feeling the ache from the fall. As he opens his eyes, he sees Miyato beside him, looking different. Her hair seems slightly off, almost as if she were a different person. The thought crosses his mind. Could they be twins? Before he can say anything, Miyato suddenly hugs him tightly, overwhelmed with relief that they're both alive. She smiles, thanking him, and then stands up, waving goodbye as she heads home. Jogo, still lying on the ground and confused, watches her leave, but just as he's trying to make sense of what happened, another figure approaches, the real Miyato. She looks at him with concern, asking if he's okay. Jogo, startled by the sight of her, freezes in shock. The strange events have completely thrown him off balance. Without thinking, Jogo blurts out that he likes her. Mayato stops and stares at him, wide-eyed and caught off guard. Realizing what he just said, Jogo panics. He stumbles over his words, apologizing and saying he didn't mean it, even though he knows deep down he does. Embarrassed beyond belief, he quickly stands up and leaves, muttering apologies as he hurries away. Miyato watches him go, her expression unreadable as she processes what just happened. She doesn't call out to him, letting him walk away while quietly staring after him. When Jogo gets home, he can't stop blaming himself. He feels he should have walked Miyato home after everything that happened, especially considering how close they came to disaster. The guilt eats at him as he replays the moment in his head. On top of that, he can't understand why he suddenly confessed his feelings to her in such an awkward way. It wasn't the right time, and he knows it. Then his mind drifts back to the strange girl he saw earlier, the one he had almost mistaken for Miyato. The memory feels vivid, and he recalls the odd differences in her appearance, wondering who she really was and why she felt so familiar. Frustrated and confused, Jogo decides to clear his mind. He heads to the bathroom, hoping the routine will help settle his thoughts. But when he opens the door, he freezes in shock. Standing there is the girl from earlier. His heart skips a beat as he stares at her, unsure if he's hallucinating or losing his grip on reality. Gathering himself, he asks the girl to explain who she is. To his surprise, she calmly introduces herself. She claims to be Miyato from another world. She explains that she came to this world to save him from the accident that could have taken his life. As if that weren't shocking enough, she also claims to be his girlfriend in her world. Jogo can't believe what he's hearing. His mind spins, and he feels like he's trapped in a strange dream. He shouts in disbelief, trying to convince himself this isn't real. But no matter how much he tries to deny it, the girl stands right there in front of him, completely serious. Still overwhelmed, Jogo tells her he can't accept that she's his girlfriend. It doesn't make sense to him, but as he thinks more deeply, he starts to wonder if it's possible he's been living another life in a parallel world, one where he and Miyato are together. The thought feels impossible, yet something about it stirs a strange familiarity in him. While Jogo and the other world Miyato are still talking, a sudden knock at the door interrupts them. The otherworld Miyato asks if Jogo is expecting someone. He quickly replies that he's not, explaining that the only people who might show up unannounced are his parents. Panic rises in his chest as he realizes how awkward it would be if someone found her here. He tells her to hide, but she's reluctant at first, clearly uncomfortable with being ordered around. Jogo insists, urging her to hide quickly, and finally she agrees, though she clearly doesn't like it. She moves to a corner of the room, out of sight. With a deep breath, Jogo heads to the door. To his shock, standing there is the original Miyato. His heart skips a beat as she holds out a small key. She explains that she found it on the floor and thought it might belong to him. Jogo thanks her, trying to keep his composure, but she continues talking, and what she says next catches him off guard. She thanks him again for saving her during the accident, her voice full of gratitude. But then, to his surprise, she brings up the confession he made earlier, that he liked her. She asks him if he truly meant it. Jogo, still trying to process everything, nods and tells her that he did mean it. Then, to his astonishment, Miyato smiles and says she'd like them to date, since she feels the same way. Her words leave him stunned, and for a moment, he can't move or speak. But as his shock fades, another realization hits him. The otherworld Miyato is still in the room, hiding from view, and he's now faced with a choice he never expected. Here he is, standing in front of the Miyato he's always known, who now wants to be with him. But at the same time, the otherworld Miyato, who came from another world to save him, is still waiting, claiming to be his girlfriend in her world. Jogo is torn. He's now forced to choose between two different versions of Miyato, each with her own world and her own reality. The next morning, Jogo wakes up still unsure if what happened with Miyato was a dream or real. As he thinks about it, the otherworld Miyato greets him, and he's shocked to find her sitting beside him. She explains she doesn't know when she fell asleep next to him. Jogo is confused. He has a crush on the Miyato from his world, but now there's this other Miyato from another world claiming to be the same person. They sit down for breakfast, and Miyato enjoys the egg roll they're having. Afterward, Jogo asks if it's okay to ask her some questions. Mayato agrees, but reminds him to address her politely as she's still the same Mayato, just from another world. Jogo then asks if she's truly the same Mayato, but the question seems to upset her. Jogo feels guilty, but he still can't fully accept the idea of someone coming from another world. He wonders if they could just be twins. Mayato then brings the same key that the original Miyato had given him yesterday. She explains that this was the key she used to get into his house the day they first met. Jogo picks up the key from the table, taking a deep look at it. He knows it's the same key he has, and it's a little unsettling. He starts to wonder how Mayato, someone from another world, could have gotten a key that only he and his family should possess. The key should not even exist in her world. Jogo tries to reason through it, thinking it might be a leap to assume too much from this alone. But when he remembers everything that happened the previous day, he starts to believe that she really might be the Miyato from another world. To further prove her identity, Mayato goes so far as to pull down her dress to show him a mole as a confirmation. Jogo feels uncomfortable and tells her it's not necessary. However, she insists that the mole would be enough evidence to prove she's the one. In his mind, Jogo knows that even if he saw the mole, it wouldn't change the strange reality of the situation. After a brief silence, Jogo finally asks Mayato if she should be returning to her world. The question catches her off guard, and Jogo can see that she's surprised and a little affected by it. She asks if she's making him uncomfortable, but Jogo quickly assures her that's not it. Mayato then tells him that she was actually thinking of staying here for a while since he's around. She asks if she can stay at his place. Jogo is taken aback by her sudden request. He's unable to respond, and to his surprise, Mayato interprets his silence as agreement. She points out that he lives alone in this world, so it would be easy for her to stay. She even reminds him that she's his girlfriend, which adds another layer of confusion for Jogo. Although Jogo has a crush on the Miyato from his world, the one standing before him feels entirely different. He's still processing how to handle the situation when Miyato mentions that even if she wanted to go back to her world, she has no idea how to return. This shocks Jogo even more. As he watches her, Jogo notices how different the otherworld Mayato is. She's bright, energetic, and completely at ease with him, smiling and laughing freely. In contrast, the Miyato he has feelings for in his world is cooler, more reserved. Jogo can't help but feel conflicted, unsure of where his feelings truly lie. Jogo feels he has no choice but to let the otherworld Miyato stay with him, even though he's still unsure of how to handle everything. He takes her outside to get some clothes for her. As they walk, Miyato holds onto his arm tightly, making it obvious to anyone around that they are a couple. Jogo feels uneasy, but she explains that this is normal for couples. He reminds her that he already told her the previous day that they are not dating, but she argues that they are. Jogo is confused and doesn't remember ever confessing his feelings to her, but she insists that he did. Jogo finally realizes that in another world, he must have confessed to her. Feeling awkward and unsure, Mayato pulls her hand off his arm. She apologizes, explaining that she thought it would be okay to hold on to him, but she will wait for the right time before doing so again. However, she also assures him that she will not back down from being his girlfriend. When they reach the store, Jogo goes inside to get the clothes, leaving Miyato outside. While she waits, one of the original Miyato's friends spots her. Mistaking her for the Miyato she knows, she walks over to greet her and asks why she's alone and if she has a boyfriend. Miyato, feeling bold, tells the girl that she does have a boyfriend. The girl is surprised because she didn't expect the Miyato she knew to be so open about it. Miyato is surprised when the girl, Hinachi, reacts to her statement about having a boyfriend. Hinachi can hardly believe it, so Miyato, feeling nervous, quickly says that she was just teasing her and doesn't actually have a boyfriend. She starts to feel uncomfortable and anxious about the conversation, so she decides to end it. She waves goodbye to Hinachi, calling her by name, which catches the girl off guard. Miyato leaves in a hurry, pretending she has to go, but in her mind she's determined that no matter what, she will make sure she falls in love with Jogo in this world too. Later that evening, Jogo and Miyato are seen walking home after a successful shopping trip. Miyato promises to pay him back for everything, but Jogo insists that she doesn't need to. He explains that the money he used to buy everything came from helping his parents at their shop. He doesn't usually spend money like that, but since he had it, he didn't mind using it for their outing. Miyato nods, understanding that Jogo is kind and generous, even if he doesn't expect anything in return. As they walk home, Miyato's thoughts are filled with the confession from her other self in the parallel world. She knows Jogo isn't the same person as the one she loved in her world, but she's made up her mind that she will fall in love with him here. When they get to Jogo's house, she turns to face him, takes a deep breath, and boldly tells him that she loves him. Jogo is taken aback, shocked by her sudden declaration. Meanwhile, the original Miyato is lying in her room, thinking about Jogo. She remembers what happened between them earlier and wonders what he's up to. She grabs her phone and texts him, asking if he will be free the next day, eager to hear back from him. The next morning, Jogo finally tells the otherworld Miyato where he's going, thinking it's the right time to explain. He mentions that he's meeting with the original Miyato, but when the otherworld Miyato hears this, she gets upset. She's angry that Jogo is going to meet the other Miyato, assuming it's some kind of date. Jogo quickly corrects her, saying it's not a date, but the otherworld Miyato insists on going with him. She argues that there's nothing wrong with the three of them going together, but Jogo feels uncomfortable with the idea, reminding her that the original Miyato doesn't know about the situation between them. Hearing this, the otherworld Miyato calms down, realizing that Jogo is right. Still, Jogo can't help but wonder if it's even okay for two versions of the same person to exist in the same world. He's torn and unsure about what to do, still caught between his feelings for both versions of Miyato. He decides to leave things as they are for now, hoping he can figure it out later. Before Jogo leaves, he urges Miyato to stay at home, and surprisingly she agrees. As he's about to leave, she gives him a sudden hug. Jogo doesn't expect it and stands frozen for a moment, feeling her chest press against his own. Jogo walks down the street, his mind replaying the question the original Miyato asked about dating. He didn't expect her to ask and couldn't give an answer, which still bothers him. Now thinking about it, he doesn't know what to say. He doesn't want to mess things up with her, but at the same time, he doesn't want to hurt the otherworld Miyato. Despite the confusion, a warm feeling spreads inside him, and he smiles. But then, nervousness takes over, and his heart races. He tries to calm himself, taking deep breaths, but it doesn't help. He knows the original Miyato wants to talk about dating today, and he's not sure how to answer her. He really wants to go out with her, but he can't ignore the fact that he's also torn between the two Miyatos. He thinks about how he's going to make a decision. He can't keep going back and forth forever. Before he can think more, the original Miyato shows up. She's surprised to see him there early. When Jogo sees her, he feels his nerves rise again. She looks cute, even in casual clothes, and it makes him smile. He feels happy, but the nervousness comes back. He's about to hang out with her for real, and it feels different now. His thoughts quickly turn to the otherworld Miyato. He remembers the hug they shared. He didn't really think about it at the time, but now he wonders if he went too far with the hug. Jogo sits in silence, lost in his thoughts, when Miyato suddenly calls his name. He snaps out of his daydream, startled by the sound of her voice. He quickly gathers himself, embarrassed for getting distracted. Miyato notices his reaction and asks if he's already decided where they should go for the day. Jogo nods and pulls out his phone, showing her a fruit garden he found. He remembers Miyato once mentioning that she loves sweets, so he thought it would be the perfect place. He nervously asks if she would like it. Miyato smiles and agrees, excited to check it out. Jogo feels a sense of relief and happiness wash over him. They head to the venue, and once they arrive, they find a seat at a small table. As they sit across from each other, an awkward silence falls between them. Miyato can't even look him in the eye, clearly just as nervous as he is. Jogo tries to stay calm, but he's surprised by how everything is unfolding. Just a few days ago, he never imagined that he would be hanging out with Miyato like this, having a real moment together. Jogo racks his brain, trying to figure out what they could talk about, but nothing comes to mind. After a few minutes, Miyato breaks the silence and asks if he's decided on what drink they should order. Jogo panics, realizing he hasn't even looked at the menu yet. He quickly lies, telling her that he already decided, then fumbles through the menu. In a hurry, he picks a cocktail and a parfait, and they are served. Even though the day is going well, Jogo can't shake off the feeling of disappointment. Things aren't unfolding the way he hoped. He really wants their time together to flow naturally, but it feels awkward. As he glances at the drinks they are served, he notices the parfait is much bigger than he expected. Trying to make the best of the situation, he comments that the parfait looks good. Miyato smiles, unable to hide her excitement about it, and when Jogo looks at her face, he is taken aback. She's making a cute expression, one he's never seen her make before. It makes him feel warm inside. As Miyato begins sipping her drink, Jogo can't help but watch her. She looks so cute even in the way she drinks, and he stares at her for a long time without realizing it. Eventually, Miyato notices his gaze and lightly teases him, asking him to start drinking as well. Jogo snaps out of his trance and takes a sip of his own drink. To his surprise, it tastes delicious, and he feels a little better. But just as he relaxes, he accidentally knocks into the parfait, causing a small mess. The whole situation suddenly becomes more awkward than ever. After finishing their drinks, they head back home, still talking about the fruit garden and the drinks. But as Jogo thinks back on the parfait incident, he feels embarrassed all over again. He can't shake the awkwardness and finds it hard to keep the conversation going. Miyato, sensing something is off, asks if Jogo has any other places to stop by before heading home. He shakes his head, telling her that he doesn't have any other plans. Feeling guilty about the awkwardness earlier, he apologizes to her. He explains that he's been nervous the whole time and didn't know what to say, which led to him making mistakes. To his surprise, Miyato apologizes back. She admits that she has been so focused on the parfait that she hasn't been much better at starting a conversation herself. Jogo feels a bit uneasy as he thinks about how Miyato was so focused on the parfait during their time of the garden. He wonders if she forgot about him while enjoying it, but he quickly realizes that she was probably just nervous. Trying to shake off the feeling, he tells himself it's fine. But then Miyato suddenly asks him an unexpected question. She asks what he would do if aliens attacked Earth. Jogo is caught off guard. He has no idea why she would ask him something so random. It isn't what he expected at all, and he stares at her, confused for a moment, trying to figure out why she would ask such a question. Seeing the puzzled look on his face, she explains that her grandmother told her to think about something weird when she gets nervous. So she decided to ask him something random to distract herself. Jogo, still a little stunned, decides to play along and thinks about it for a second. He says he would drive away, maybe try to get to safety. Miyato listens carefully and then comments that it seems like a normal answer, but an alien attack would be an emergency, so she wonders what he would do in a more urgent situation. Jogo starts to feel more curious and asks her what she would do. To his surprise, Miyato answers that she would just ask the aliens to take her to space. She would start by making friends with them, then get a ride to space to see the planets and enjoy the view, possibly even eating parfait up there. Jogo is still processing this unexpected response. He points out that she's the one who said the aliens were attacking, so he's confused about why she would go with them. Miyato just laughs it off, saying she'd make friends with them first, and space would be an adventure. She seems completely carefree and sure of her strange plan. Jogo, although he's skeptical about the idea, he wonders if she truly believes it would be fun. Miyato comes up with a strange story to help them both ease the nervousness, suggesting that Jogo should come up with his own weird story when they find a place to sit. As they walk along, they spot a small girl who has lost her balloon. Without thinking much, Jogo goes over to retrieve it for her. The girl's mother sees him and assumes he's on a date with Miyato, wishing them good luck. Jogo, feeling awkward, knows that it's not actually a date, but he just nods and smiles, trying to avoid the misunderstanding. Miyato hears what the woman says, and the comment makes her reflect on the conversation she had with Jogo about dating. She still doesn't fully understand why she asked him that question, but now it feels important. She starts to feel uneasy, as if she might regret not saying something earlier. The thought crosses her mind that Jogo might eventually go far away, and she wouldn't want that to happen, even though they're not very close yet. Jogo stands there, speechless as he watches her process her thoughts. Miyato then turns to him and asks him to pretend like nothing happened the other day. She tells him that she had a great time during their time together, despite the awkward moments. In fact, she feels like she's gotten to know him better, and now she wants to know even more about him. Miyato believes that once she truly gets to know him, she'll be ready to fall in love with him, and they can start dating properly. Jogo is stunned. He doesn't know how to respond to her boldness and honesty. He feels overwhelmed by how straightforward she is.
Here I am, know it's been a while. I was in denial about my love. Here I stand, I know I walked away.